Welcome back friends, welcome back in another video tutorial for microbiology with Shanlik. So welcome back in our cell biology lecture series. So we are discussing about our fluid mosaic model of cell membrane. So in the previous video we have done a lecture on membrane proteins. So now it is time for membrane lipid. So membrane lipid first of all exist in the cell membrane as a asymmetric lipid bilayer, okay, and in membrane lipid, there is a presence of both hydrophobic and hydrophilic groups. That is why membrane lipids are amphipathic or amphiphilic molecule. Okay, and the lipids which are present in the cell membrane are mainly phospholipids. We have already done a detailed lecture on phospholipids in our lipid playlist. You can go and watch this video to understand what are the phospholipids. So now amphipathic molecule means both hydrophobic and hydrophilic groups are present, and it will exist in such a situation that will be thermodynamically stable. Okay, so let's move to a picture that we have discussed in when we have done our very first lecture on fluid mosaic model, that is this one. So that is how a asymmetric lipid bilayer is present in the cell membrane. This is the head part of the lipid and this is the tail part of the lipid. Tail part, remember, hydrophobic, and that is why it is buried in the inner of the membrane, whereas the head part is hydrophilic, that is why it faces the outer surface, right? Because it have to interact with the water present in the cytosol, right? So now, so that is what I have written here, that head part is hydrophilic part, tail part is hydrophobic part. Lateral movement that we have talked about, and that is why we are mentioning this model as fluid mosaic model. So lateral movement of protein and lipid allow both localization as well as diffusion, right? Because we all know that cell membrane is semi-permeable and there is a diffusion of nutrients from outside as well as from inside, right? So now there are transverse movement also possible. So lateral movement, how lateral movement is going on, we have discussed, right? That is what I have mentioned here with the blue color. Now transverse movements means the lipid or protein will move in this way. That is what I have mentioned with the help of the red color. Okay, so transverse movement is possible in case of some kind of integral protein. Okay, and this kind of movement is known as flip-flop movement from one layer to another layer, and it is mainly observed in case of flippage group of protein. But transverse movement of lipid is not possible, because if the amphipathic lipid molecule will going to move across the membrane, then there is a possible chance that hydrophilic head will come into contact with the hydrophobic interior, and that is not thermodynamically stable, because I have just told you that the lipid bilayer will be exist in such a manner that will be thermodynamically stable. But if the lipid going to perform a transverse movement, then it will thermodynamically not favorable. That is why transverse movement is possible in case of protein, but not in case of lipid. Okay, so this is a diagram that I have drawn of cell membrane. So this type of proteins are known as integral protein. Okay, and these proteins, as you can see, present in the periphery in both outer layer and inner layer, are known as peripheral protein, and these red color things are membrane lipid. Okay, and I have also told you that some type of carbohydrate may also be present in cell membrane, but it will be in combination with protein or lipid. So here you can see there is a glycoprotein. Okay, now there is some type of things also present which are known as hopanoid, which we'll going to talk about in our next part of the video. So for now, another important thing, the factor affecting membrane fluidity. So there are various type of factors. For example, the length of the fatty acid chain, saturation of the fatty acid, cholesterol or hopanoid, and temperature. Now today's last thing, that is homoviscous adaptation. Cell membrane fluidity can be adapted by organism in response to both internal factor as well as external environment, and this type of adaptation is known as homoviscous adaptation. We will going to talk about this homoviscous adaptation thing in details in next part of our video. So that is the end of today's video, where we have mainly discussed about the cell membrane lipids, okay, which are amphipathic molecule and exist in such a way that is thermodynamically stable. right? Transverse movement is possible in case of protein but not in case of lipid, but lateral movement of lipid and protein is possible, right? That allow us diffusion of nutrients as well as localization, right? So that is the idea of membrane lipid. I hope this video will be helpful for you. Thank you.